Hello, hello. This is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals and Let's Talk Moving podcast. And with me today, I have Sean Stumpf, who is the fourth generation future owner of Stumpf Moving and Storage out of Pittsburgh, PA, with 90 years in the moving industry, with four generations of movers going back to 1936. I think you said, right?
Yes, in 1936.
1936. So, welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. And Sean, how did you get started in the moving industry? I mean, obviously family, but otherwise,
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
pleasure.
I got my start in the moving and storage industry as a child. I was basically born into it, and I can't remember a summer or a day off where I wasn't here at the warehouse or on the trucks working. So I've basically been doing it my entire life. I went through high school and college working here in the summers, and after I graduated college, I got my CDL and I started running the road. And eventually, I worked my way into being our digital marketing manager, and still out on the trucks every once in a while. I oversee our high-end, high-value moves, especially those high-value piano moves that we do. If anybody is familiar with our social media, our Instagram or our YouTube channel, I like to highlight all the pianos that we move. We do them for the Steinway store down here in Pittsburgh, and some of them can be challenging. I like to go out, and then my father will every once in a while come out with me just to make sure everything is going smoothly as well.
Yeah, so if so for those of you guys that don't know, I'm also a big Pittsburgh guy. I grew up in the city. I went to high school, went to college, went to middle school, all in Pittsburgh. And I mean, I moved around a little bit, but it was mainly Pittsburgh was my stumping ground. So it was only a matter of time before we're gonna have a Pittsburgh company on. So it's happened. It finally happened. So I'm very excited about that. So that's great. And now for a word from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com today to learn more. What are you doing now that's different from your competition in Pittsburgh? Now, I know in Pittsburgh, there's not as big of a market for moving companies because I know throughout the years I've always searched and not a lot of things popped up in terms of movers, so there are not as many moving companies in the city.
You know, that's a pretty good point, actually. I was just having this conversation with my father. So I guess a little background about us before I get into, what I'm doing differently is we started in 1936 when my great grandfather got into the moving and storage industry in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of downtown Pittsburgh. It's on the east end of town. He made the transfer from the coal and ice business before refrigerators and back when still had coal-fired furnaces, and he moved towards the moving and storage industry, got his PUC license to operate in Pennsylvania as a household goods mover. From there, my he passed away, and my great grandmother ran the business for many years until my grandfather branched out and started his own company. And then in the I think late 90s, early 2000s, my father took over. I'm about in that same transition period now where I'm taking a lot of the reins and responsibility of our social media, which is what is one of the biggest things that I believe that we're doing differently than our competition. I don't know how to directly explain it, but I don't see a lot of our competition doing anything of extreme value on social media. Everybody seems to have their posts and things of that nature, but I take an active role and I like to engage with our customers and be transparent. And to your point about not too many moving companies in Pittsburgh, back 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 in when my father was a kid and when my grandfather was running the business full time, he said there was about 50 movers within the area. We had a lot of industry. We had the steel mills. We had PPG here, a whole bunch of industry. Also, we had military moves coming in and out, but that's kind of slowed down a lot with the closing of Fort Dix. With all that, we've seen a decrease in movers over the years. And then within 2008, we had the Great Recession. as they say, and we watched a lot of our competition go out of business then too. So currently there is not a lot of movers here, but we do have a lot of unfortunately rogue movers that
Right.
are in the area here, and they're like the guys who are listening to this podcast, they're the Craigslist movers, the Facebook Marketplace movers, but we do still have a good core of family-owned and operated moving companies, and seems to be the ones who have been around for a very long time, have stood the test of time. We're able to weather all of the issues, the ups and downs, and the ebbs and flows of how tough it is to be a mover here in Pittsburgh.
But no, it's awesome to hear you say what you're saying about the social media because obviously with my podcast and if you've listened to the episodes, I talk about that a lot.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yes.
that's like to me, and it's especially refreshing to hear it from a company that's been in business for as long as you guys have, to hear you going in that direction because I have those conversations with companies that have been in business 20, 30 plus years and they all want to, or majority of them want to continue status quo and continue doing things the same way. And I could keep trying to convince them that no, you can't continue things this way. You have to adjust to what's happening around you. You can't just stay still. Because
Absolutely.
that's frankly how you end up losing business because you're gonna have somebody that's young, somebody that's fresh, somebody that understands the media place and understanding how to use social media to your advantage, and they're just going to pass you by if you're not watching. Does your company need more creative marketing and ad campaigns to improve traffic and organic leads? Well, Moving Sales Professionals has a solution for you. We have partnered with social media marketing agency that has over 300 million views on their ads and videos across social media, and they have generated over $35 million for their clients over the last 10 years alone. Their services include content creation, social media ads, pay-per-click campaigns, website and funnel development, Google Ads, email marketing campaigns, lead generation, and much, much more. For limited time only, they have discounted rates for their services. Sign up for a free consultation call with us via our Calendly link on our website or below this video.
Oh, you're 100% right. Just as when my great grandfather switched from coal and ice when he saw that that industry was going out and he had to make a tactical move or a move in the right direction, adapt and overcome. I see that right now with the social media. We've I was just doing my numbers here on YouTube, and right now we're at 3,500 subscribers with about where our watch time hours. We're at 28,000 watch time hours. So that's 28,000 hours that people have taken the time to watch our content and to engage with us. And that's marketing that if you would pay for
It's
those
the
kind of
marketing you
hours,
can't buy.
exactly. Yes. So, but it's funny. I got into film many, many years ago. I went to college for television radio broadcast, but I got into it much earlier than that. Uh, through skateboarding of all things. I was a real avid skateboarder, still am, but uh, we would make films and take pictures all the time, and that really grew my love of photography and videography. And eventually, when I went to high school, our high school had a video program, so I got into that, and then I've basically been doing it my whole life. A couple years ago, we were approached by a reality TV show. We had lengthy talks with them for about a year. And then finally, my grandfather and my father just kind of came to the conclusion that it wasn't right for us. They watched all the reality TV shows throughout the years. And, if you remember those CC Chopper guys,
Mm-hmm.
it destroyed their family. So my parents didn't want that anything, and my grandfather didn't want anything to do with reality show based on what could happen. But my father did say, if you want a reality show, make your own. So I kind of went full force with that, and I started up the YouTube channel. But we've actually been on YouTube since 2013. I started making small marketing videos, and then it wasn't until COVID when my brother and we run our own separate YouTube channel. It's called The Brothers Workshop. We have about 48,000 subscribers, 6 million views. So it's a pretty not substantial, but it's a pretty good size YouTube channel where we basically learn YouTube, and then we take what we learned there because it's kind of just a pet project. We do it for fun, and then we implement it within our professional lives. So my brother's an architect, and he takes his YouTube experience and puts it towards his architecture firm, and then I take my experience and I put it towards Stumpf Moving Storage YouTube channel. Now, his is David Stumpf Architecture. If you guys are interested, you can kind of see how we have similar but different personalities and styles.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a big supporter of that, and once again, I'm gonna give props to my UK guys. Warner's removals that have what we're talking about, reality TV show
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
specifically focused on moving and his company. And of course, you got Joshua Pask, who has his own thing, but I mean, it's mostly they do a lot of Facebook stuff, and they don't focus, they don't have a reality TV, but their social media is amazing, and it's great to hear that somebody local here in US is understanding that concept and is taking it that way. And I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
to have that, obviously, we're doing different things here, so my niche would be a lot smaller because in my niche, of course, we're talking to moving companies, we're talking to companies affiliated with the moving industry, we're talking businesses that who are doing things that could translate and could be useful to the moving industry and stuff like that. That's mainly who we're talking to. Worldwide, how many people are really affiliated with the moving industry? 100, 150,000, maybe a little bit more than that worldwide that actually do this. I mean, between obviously you got some of that stuff happening in Europe, you got UK, you got Spain, you got Canada, you got things in Japan and such, right? So you got those type of things going on, Australia maybe, right? But overall, you're not gonna have a million subscribers. It's impossible because it's so niche and it talks about this specific thing. Now, in what you're doing, and I think that's great, and that's exactly my point that I try to make to a lot of moving company, whether they're my clients or not. I talk about that specifically that we, when you guys do your social media, your focus is not necessarily on people that are looking to move today. Your focus is to build future audience, to build future following, to build people that are going to be using your company. They're not even thinking about moving. Maybe today they're 15, or something like that, 13 years old, teenagers, right? But 10 years from now, they're going to be going to college. They're going to be getting a job. They're going to be relocating across the country. They're going to be getting bigger houses, whatever. But all that stuff is going to happen. So you're trying to build your audience ahead and like I said, this is advertising that you can't buy.
absolutely.
If you build your audience many, many years down the road, is just going to continue in that cycle. And that's like overall, all the moving companies are talking about organic. That's what you want. We want organic advertising. You want organic customers that are coming to you without you, frankly, spending any money on advertising, spending money on buying leads. Leads are crap, especially right now. I was just talking about that recently in a couple of the past podcasts, where we're used to 30 to 40% junk when it comes from purchased leads in the winter time. Well, this year, summertime, it's still 30, 40%. They get better because more people move. They have not gotten better for whatever reason.
We don't really get into too many leads here
Well, if
because
you have
we,
million views, you don't
yeah,
need to. This is exactly what I'm trying to say. You're exactly
yes,
making my point for me.
yes, and we've been in business for so long that we've kind of like built our niche and our following. Like our marketing doesn't just happen on YouTube, but it's also with the trucks that we have that are fully painted, and when they go out into the field, people recognize that, especially in the East End of Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's a brand. It's part of our marketing as well. So I believe it's what is it, 7 times people see you before they buy from you, something like that.
Hmm.
Now I add the YouTube into that, and my to your point there, my goal is to get the DIY people first. So we do a lot of how-to tutorials,
Hmm.
and they'll learn, okay, well, this is how I pack this or do that. And then they'll realize, man, the last time I did it myself is really hard, but these guys know what they're doing. Let me hire these guys. And even though that our reach is a lot further than just the city of Pittsburgh or regionally here,
Hmm.
because we do long distance moving as well. It's long term, and we're able to convert any of the DIY people um, away, like outside of Pittsburgh, and say even if they're on the West Coast, we're able to also turn those into sales on material which we do through Amazon affiliates and things like that. So it's kind of like it's deeper than just lead conversion or anything like that. We're trying to like build a brand. Matt Risinger is a very interesting guy on YouTube who I draw a lot of inspiration from. He'd be a good one for anybody to look at to kind of understand what I'm talking about here. And he's in the home space, more construction based than anything. But I'm an avid YouTube guy, I guess you say, or you could call me a YouTuber, but I like to study it, and there's a lot of potential out there, no matter the niche.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what you're talking about, it's kind of like uninvasive, suggestive stuff that we're doing, right? So it's the same thing
Yes.
that we're doing here too. So basically, versus other podcasts that are moving industry related or education related, you're going to hear them basically sell, 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 buy, right? You don't
Yes.
really
Yeah.
hear me say that on my podcast. And the idea is basically the same. You listen to our conversations, you hear what we're talking about. Can you do some of that stuff yourself? Sure. Do you want to? That's another question. Wouldn't you
That's the
rather
thing.
hire
Yeah.
somebody that's already doing it and already knows how to do it the right way? Or take years to build that. So that's the bottom line that you want to, we are in the world where people always look for shortcuts. I mean, in the moving industry, I don't believe there are a lot of shortcuts, but certainly when it comes to sales and building a team that can do things for you, it takes time. And frankly, salespeople are very peculiar. They're a very special brand, and you got to understand them. You got to understand where they're coming from and what makes them tick. It's very different. I mean, I was in the sales industry way before I got into moving, and it was in Pittsburgh that I started doing my sales. I was 17, 18 years old at the time. It's a different world. So absolutely what you're doing with social media, and speaking of what you were talking about, there was a big guy that was, I think it was in Maryland, that's somewhere, who basically did the same thing. He was a plumber, from what I understand. I can't remember the name right now, but it was a plumber guy, and he did exactly the same thing that you're talking about. He started out with one truck, and he started doing DIY videos also on YouTube in terms of, oh, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. And as a result, his business blew up, and he's had 10 trucks running. I don't know how long it took him to do so, but you know, people will look at the video and like, well, that's great. Well, I could do this, but I really don't want to. Let me call this guy, because
Yes.
he could clearly see that he knows what he's doing. So that's the same idea here. And so you're taking that same approach, and I'm certainly taking that same approach. In your case, you're focusing on the public and consumer, in a general sense of the word, whether it's a consumer in the city, in the greater city of Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas, or whether it's somebody buying supplies from you that's located in California, whatever the case
Yeah.
may be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to do through the YouTube channel is also add transparency to the industry. You, for some reason, when we get together, like industry professionals, we all think that there's this black cloud. Like the public at large thinks there's a black cloud around the industry, but we all know, like at least the professionals, that this is a very good and very upstanding industry as long as everybody's above board with their insurance, their liability, and their licensing. But sometimes the public doesn't really think that because of the rogue movers. So I felt like by showing people, by being transparent, almost like policing and body cameras, I guess if you want to think about it like that, we're able to show people what we do, how we do it, and educate them before they decide to move with us, but also show them what and other, maybe the rogue movers who want to go legit, how this is supposed to be done, and impart 100 years of knowledge on the industry.
Right. And that's 100%. And that's something that I very much promote on my podcast. As I mentioned many, many times before, I only do work with licensed companies. I only do work with companies that are legit, that care about their brand. If you don't care about your brand, I don't want to work with you. I've said that multiple times on this podcast, and I've spoken about it over and over. And I'm going to continue to talking about that, because at the end of the day, we want to clean up the industry to the point where it no longer has the bad stigma, and it no longer has the bad name that it had us because of some bad players that were out there. I mean, we all
I think we're doing a
know.
good job at
Yeah.
that, through podcasts like yours and social media. I do remember your podcast with the gentleman from Europe, and I got to watch his this YouTube channel. Is that Warren's
Yeah,
Removals? Is that
Warren's
correct?
removals. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. He's doing something that's totally different than what I'm doing, but I really enjoy what he's doing as well. It's very cool.
Yeah, I think it's basically something that people can take as inspiration because
Oh yeah.
it's once again you got to build it because at the end of the day, you know, you don't want to spend your money on leads that you're sharing with 5, 10 moving companies. You want these leads to be unique to you because obviously if that's the case, if you're at that point, if your salesperson does a good job, you're booking that person and they're not going anywhere else. And that's what you want because then it makes it that much easier for you to fill your trucks. It makes it that much easier for your guys to not go anywhere else because they have consistent work. It makes it that much easier for you to continue growing and growing and growing and providing great service. Yeah, at that point you can raise your rates, you can raise your stuff, and people are willing to pay for quality because they understand what it is that you provide. That's where we are right now. Now, Sean, what are you thinking in terms of where the industry is going to be the next 3, 4, 5 years?
I think that a lot of people will be surprised. I'm not sure if so. I listen to a lot of other podcasts and I hear like what a lot of other people are thinking, but I think the industry as a whole is going to be pretty much as it's been over the last 100 years. You know, as long as people are moving forward and continuing to move and life is happening, we're going to need movers. But the people who are going to stand out in this industry are going to be the ones who separate themselves, differentiate themselves. At least here in Pittsburgh, we've noticed that the labor market has gone down tremendously. We've
Mm,
noticed that there's less industry within Pittsburgh who are moving, so we don't have the corporate moves that we used to have. We definitely don't have the military moves that we used to have because we were a big military mover. So you have to adapt and overcome. In our market, we decided to niche down on pianos, especially. That may not work in other parts of the country. So here within Pittsburgh, I think we're going to have to continue to niche down and focus on what we've been doing personally. As an industry as a whole, I think the ones who are out there being vocal and who are making a name for themselves online are going to be the ones who shine. And that's not to say that the van lines will suffer. I hear some people saying that. Everybody has a place in this industry. The van lines serve a very specific purpose and cover things that most local moving companies can't cover. We were agents for van lines for many years, so I understand what they do with the military and the corporate and everything, and getting you loads when you're across the country that you may not be able to get if you're just a owner operator or an independent mover. So I think there's always going to be a place for that. This expansion that I saw during COVID, it was a lot of people coming in thinking that, wow, there's all this money, there's all these people are moving. Well, they're starting to realize what we've known the whole time, that this industry is very difficult and you have to be prepared to weather storms. So we're
mm.
going to see a lot of these companies that blew up over COVID going away.
Well, I think what I've said this before, what I think the big problem was with COVID is that when we had that one crazy fall winter where we all made a lot of money, the
Yes,
new
yeah,
players that came into market, they thought that that was going to be the norm, and then the following winter, last winter came, and things dropped off considerably below our usual winter
oh yes,
standards.
yeah.
You know, the
So it was
ones
almost
that,
back to
right, the ones that were
2008.
expecting to have the same jump that they had the winter before, the COVID winter, when what the heck, right? Because they thought that they
Yeah,
were going to have the same thing, and a lot of them did go out of business because they were not prepared. They did not put money away that summer. They did not make sure that they had a budget to cover slow season. They didn't do any of that stuff, and as a
yeah.
result, a
They
lot of
were
them did go out of business.
out there buying the $150,000 trucks, those
Yeah.
payments. I was sitting back watching all this happen. We've been, you know, we've weathered many storms with ebbs and flows and everything. From, I mean, you got to think 90 years of business,
Mm.
and then you had 2008 more recently, and I remember that vividly. Watching all these companies go out of business, we shrunk a little bit, and you kind of got to bring it back in, make sure your core is stable, and then you can expand a little bit after the fact. But watching everybody who wasn't prepared to weather storm, guys who had leases on warehouses, on trucks, couldn't make payments, like it's my personal opinion that you should own your equipment, you should own your warehouse. That way it's yours. You know, it's if it's paid off, you don't have to worry about it except for maintenance, and it's just making you money. And in case of a downturn, well, you don't have payments to make because you own your assets outright. Yeah, I just can't figure out why people are buying 150, $160,000 trucks that are under CDL and you can only put about
You
eight
know
thousand
what?
pounds in. You
I
know,
think it's just lack of experience and not
yeah.
having proper guidance. Because I can tell you, when I got into the moving industry in 2003, and I was working for a moving company as a sales guy, and I got fired because I was making too much money as a sales guy. They didn't expect me to do what I did. And then I got immediately picked up by some guys that work for that same moving company and they opened up their own, but they did exactly what you're talking about. It's inexperience. We're talking, I was in my 20s, they were in their 20s. They went out, they rented an apartment that was supposed to serve as an office. They bought movers, bought desks and couches and brand new leather. You know, it looked all nice
Oh
and
man,
spiffy, but you're a mover. You are on the truck. You get
you're
free
pro
furniture left and
yeah,
right.
probably gonna get that stuff for free.
What was the point of doing this, right? A month later, I left, and a month later, they were out of business. So it was very, very quick that they got knocked out because they did not have the budget. They were renting their trucks. They were doing all this stuff. That's exactly the situation that we're talking about. And having that experience myself, when I opened up my business in 2018, I knew that there was a company that every few months or so would call the company that I was working for, and they would donate furniture, office furniture. So we would take that furniture for them to whatever the donation place was, right? So when I knew I was opening an office, I picked up a phone, I called them, and I said, "Hey, so I know you guys doing this, and I'm in the process of opening up a new business. Do you care who to donate those office desks to?" And they said no, they did not care. So I called them once, got a few desks, called them another time, got a few desks. The third time I called them, they were like, "Oh, we're so glad that you called because we just got our corporate just got us a new office space with all new furniture. So we got all the stuff that we need to give away. Can you come and look?" And I came and I looked, and at that point, we took away probably like 10, 15 desks, credenzas, bookshelves, the whole 9 yards. And you're talking good quality office furniture that's like, it's pressed wood, but it's the good quality. It's the good
Oh
stuff. It's
yeah,
like the Herman, whatever the brand is. But it's like, you're talking about, I mean, right now in my office, I have probably ten to $15,000 worth of office furniture that cost me $400 to bring here.
it's not
That's
bad.
it. That's all I paid. And when it comes to that type of stuff, look, the biggest resource that we have, whether as a call center or as a moving company, realistically, is our people. That's our
Absolutely.
biggest resource and that's our biggest expense, and it should be. So if you're trying to save money, don't save it on people because I mean, be realistic, of course. You don't want to overpay either for the labor that you have, but be also realistic that if you don't have good quality people, you're not gonna have good reviews. If you're not
Yes,
gonna have your good reviews, you're not gonna have referral repeat business. If you don't
I
have that stuff, you're not gonna have organic things. There's a lot of things that you won't have if you don't have good people in place, right?
that's
So,
one thing we take very seriously.
right,
We
absolutely.
hiring professionals. You know, this is a to me this is a trade. Yeah, yeah, I look at this as like a plumber would look at their trade. We
Mhm.
want high quality, professional, uniform guys who love what they do and do it correctly with
A-
a smile on their face.
Absolutely. Same thing goes with
Yeah,
sales. My goal
yeah,
when I opened up this company was to bring professional sales into moving. That was my goal from day one, having professional sales experience coming in. So that's exactly what I took, and that's exactly what I've put in it, and that's exactly what I've been striving towards the whole entire time I've been doing this. But that's exactly it. So don't like, I mean, honestly, my computer is the most expensive computer in this place. I found a place where I could get towers for $50 a piece. So, and I have I don't know, 25, 30 computers that are in this office space. So like over time, I have that stuff. I have those desks. I have headsets that I found where I could buy them in bulk. So all the like electronics is one part that's of course important to my side of things, right? But I've spent relatively little on it. I've spent
Yeah.
relatively little on furnishing the office. Very, very little. So cutting down on those expenses as a result, having better wages and better opportunities for good sales reps because once you get them, you want to keep them. Same goes with movers. Once you
Same
have
with the
good
movers. Yeah.
foremen, you want to keep them because those are the foremen that are going to earn you money consistently. You want to take
Yes.
care of them. You take
And
care
those
of
good
them, they'll take
reviews.
care of you, and they'll take care of your customers. So that stuff is extremely important. Once again, it goes back to company culture. It goes back to building a brand and continuing to build a brand no matter what. And that's what keeps us in business.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
So
We,
a lot of young companies, like like I said, I was in my 20s and I personally saw this firsthand, and that affected my decisions when I did open this business. So a lot of people that jumped into it because they said, "Oh, there's so much money there." A lot of them did not have that experience, and they didn't have anybody to lean on for advice, and that's why a lot of them are probably no longer in the industry.
yeah, I don't think people realize how hard this industry really is. They think they could just get a truck and start making moves, but it's it's tough. It's very tough. You have to really love this business.
It's easy to
Yeah.
get in, it's hard to stay.
Yeah, once you start really get into it, dealing with employees and everything else that comes with it, it can be tough.
Absolutely. But we can continue talking about this over and over and over again. But I want to make sure you guys listen to everything that we're talking about and not zone this out. So I appreciate you spending the time. Sean, thank you very much for joining us. And like I always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you.
Thank you for having me. And
Th
shameless plug, check
yeah.
out my YouTube channel. It's
No,
Stumpf
no, of
Moving.
course. And we're going to make sure we're going to put the links for
Yeah.
that in this podcast. And of course, we're going to have our links. So please like, please subscribe, please follow. Do that for us, do that for Stumpf. And once again, thank you very much for joining us. We'll talk again soon.